Welcome back to another episode of the Outdoor Adventures podcast here on Brownfield. I'm Brent Barnett, and we're on the road this week near Boone, Iowa, and we're talking with Jace Elliott from the Iowa Department of Natural Resources. Jace, thanks for having us out here, and good to have you on the show. How are you doing?
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Good to be here.
Well, you've been on the program before in the past. I think last year we did an update on some of the deer population numbers in western Iowa.
That's right.
But catch the listeners up to speed on some of the work you do with the DNR and some of your background.
Yeah, happy to. So I have been doing deer for a while. I'm the state deer biologist here, and so I'm overseeing things like regulatory changes, looking at population trends, harvest trends, deer research, things like that. And a big part of my job is trying to get out in front of as many people as I can, hunters, landowners, farmers, anyone with some skin in the game when it comes to the deer population, and just doing some outreach and networking that way.
Talk about your office location where we're at here. I was telling Jace on my drive in that I thought it was really cool. It's kind of a remote location, and a lot of really cool habitat you drive through to get here.
Yeah, so I'm lucky to have an office in Ledges State Park here in Boone County, which is a really cool spot. If any listeners haven't been here, I'd say one of our cooler state parks in central Iowa. And then it's also surrounded by a lot of huntable WMA and Army Corps public land that stretches all up and down the Des Moines River. Interesting about this area actually is it was sort of the one of the main lasting deer core areas in Iowa back in the mid 20th century when numbers were basically extirpated from the state. The deer were actually released near this park and then used as sort of a source for translocating across the state during the relocation effort. So it's safe to say that a lot of the deer populations in Iowa come from very close to where we are today.
Do you ever try out any of these spots around here yourself for hunting?
This is where I hunt primarily, is in Boone County along the Des Moines River. Pretty much just a public land hunter, and occasionally I'll travel for a week during the rut, but most of the time I'm here.
What's your experience been like with public land? For me personally, I think I started primarily hunting public land around 2019 or 2020.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it was 2020. And last year was my first time getting a deer on public land. And so it took me like 5 years to get there, but finally made it happen, and actually had a really cool encounter that I've talked about on the show in the past. Last season before I got my buck, just like 3 days prior on the same property, I missed a really nice one.
Oh, man.
I took kind of a lengthy shot at him, kind of like the it's now or never type of scenario. Yep. Thankfully, it was a clean miss right over his back, and he didn't really know what happened and just kind of walked off with the doe he was with. But how about you, man? What kind of memories do you have on public?
So like I said, primarily a public land hunter. I have been for a long time. I grew up in central Wisconsin where we have a small 40-acre property that I used to go up there to rifle hunt. But once I started bow hunting, around 14, 15, I started stretching out to all the county land that we have up there. There's a couple 100,000 acres actually of contiguous county land. That's, maybe not managed for wildlife per se, but there's certainly a lot of wildlife on it. So I've always valued public land a lot. I've kind of moved around the country, lived in Alabama for a few years during my master's program at Auburn University in the deer lab there. And so I was, again, hunting primarily public land there and hunted in South Dakota, Kentucky, and maybe a couple other states as well. I would say that Iowa's public land, in my experience, is some of the best public land to deer hunt in the country. I might be a little biased, but I do think that that's true.
Well, I can agree with that. It's been just great, just some of the properties you can hunt, different types of habitat. I mean, heck, there was one I drove past just on my way in where I saw some prairie, and then also on that piece of public there was some standing corn. So is that something that you guys plant yourself, or do you contract with farmers? How does that work?
I would say that to my understanding, at least around here, most of those ag fields are going to be contracted with farmers. The deal is though 10% of the crops have to be left standing through the hunting season. And that just kind of provides a little bit of a food plot aspect, some standing cover and food sources during those seasons. Our hunters definitely like that, and I would say that's something that's a bit unique. Of course, in Iowa, egg is king, right? But in a lot of our WMAs we have, agriculture incorporated, which I think really increases the value of those properties for deer hunting in particular.
What sets Iowa apart? Let's just talk deer hunting as a whole. This was going to be kind of a main focus of the episode this week. What sets Iowa apart? I mean, we always hear about the quality of deer hunting in Iowa and like the caliber of bucks.
Right.
How do you get to that point?
Yeah, so it's not by accident, right? I would say, again, maybe a little biased here, but I think Iowa is absolutely at the top of the list for quality of deer hunting experience you could expect for whitetail deer in the country. It's world class in a lot of the state in terms of the calibers of bucks you can encounter. I would say Boone and Crockett reflects that to some degree, though. Just after living here for several years, it's clear that a lot of people who regularly harvest Boone and Crockett bucks in Iowa might not even report that, just because it's kind of an expectation, right? Less of a buck of a lifetime thing. But that's all to say that what we have here is really special. We do have a really strong upper age class across most of the state, primarily central, southern, and eastern Iowa in particular, where we have a lot of habitat. I would say what sets Iowa apart is regulatory foresight. Now we have sort of a younger deer population in terms of, across the decades historically. Places like, the upper Midwest have maintained robust deer numbers for maybe a couple hundred years. Here in Iowa, deer were basically extirpated 100 years ago. Okay, so we just don't have as much time that we've been managing deer, but we've also been able to enact certain regulations that I think have protected and maintained our quality. So the first of which would be that when it comes to the archery season, for most folks that don't have maybe a physical disability or those that aren't 65 or older, you have to use a vertical bow. A traditional compound longbow or recurve are what we allow, and I think that sort of safeguards the quality that we have in terms of bucks. Now, we're actually the last state in the Midwest and maybe the eastern United States, to my knowledge, that doesn't allow crossbows during the archery season. And I think that's a big testament to the quality that we have. It decreases the vulnerability of bucks to harvest during, of course, a really vulnerable time like the rut. Mm-hmm. When other states have introduced crossbows to the general hunter in archery season, they've seen buck harvest rates climb quite a bit, and of course a lot of people enter the archery season that wouldn't already participate. So I think that's number one. The second is that we don't allow any sort of firearm hunting within several weeks of peak rut, right? So we have a lot of staggered seasons here with early muzzleloader, late muzzleloader, then 2 shotgun seasons between them. None of those seasons are really anywhere near what we would consider the peak of the rut. And again, that protects large antlered bucks from harvest during a vulnerable time of year. It just maintains a better stock of big bucks. Now, during those shotgun or gun seasons, which it should be called now, mm-hmm. We allow a lot of center fire cartridges, but nothing below 35 caliber. So a lot of the long range type of weapons that you would think of, traditional to deer hunting, 30-06, 308, 243, 270, those aren't going to be allowed to be used. And again, I think that's another feather in our cap to protecting that upper age class of bucks in our very open landscape.
Yeah, so I moved to Iowa in 2015, mm-hmm. and that was one thing that stood out to me right away was, oh wow, the prime of the rut is left to the archery hunters.
That's right.
And, coming from where I grew up, I mean, there was a firearm rifle season first, second week of November. Yeah, and that would eliminate your deer population. And
it probably would make a big difference.
Make a big difference as far as those big bucks are on their feet at that time.
Yeah. And there'd be a lot more hunters on the landscape that could harvest them much more easily. In a lot of cases, if you have a gun in your hand and you see that big buck, you can probably kill him. It's a lot different when you have a bow. And so, that sort of emphasizes the ethics of fair chase, the traditions around archery hunting. It's something that you have to sort of earn in some regards there. I would say another key thing about Iowa that we do a little bit differently is restrict non-residents in terms of the number of bucks that non-residents can harvest. And I think that, again, this was some really good foresight. Now, a lot of states just kind of have an open policy. There's no restrictive quotas. We only allow 6,000 non-residents to come in the state every year and hunt for bucks. So, again, Iowa's up there maybe at the top of the list for sought-after deer states, right? And suffice it to say, there'd be a lot more people coming to hunt bucks if we changed that. So again, I think all of those things stacked on top of each other do a really great job of maintaining the quality we have here.
I primarily bow hunt. I can't think of the last time I gun hunted.
Yeah.
With a rifle in another state from where I was from in the past. But I will say one season that's growing on me that I think is really cool that you guys offer is the early muzzleloader season in mid-October.
Yep.
Man, what a cool time of the year. The temperatures are nice. It's pre-time change. It almost feels like you're hunting your bow hunting spots, but you have that muzzleloader with you. Yeah,
and that's a resident-only season. And we do actually have a quota of tags, I believe 7,500, but not all of them sell ever since I've been here. So for several years, the quota isn't reached. So I'd say it's our least popular firearm season, but you're right. It is a great time to be out there, enjoy fair weather. It's a great time to put deer meat in the freezer, whether you're out for bucks or does. It's a season I participated in the past and have a lot of fun.
And you're before that time of where deer have been pressured a whole bunch too.
You bet.
So I mean, I see the advantages to it, and I know a lot of folks like the December shotgun seasons because they can go out in groups and stuff, and the timbers aren't as much overgrown at that point because everything's dying off, so you can see a lot farther. But I just think it's so cool. You're in the early season, pleasant temperatures. There's just a lot of benefits to it.
Definitely. Yeah, I've hunted it the last several years myself. I'm thinking about late muzzleloader this year just to switch it up. But for public land hunters, it's hard to beat because, like you said, deer are still pretty unpressured. There's just been a week or two of archery open before. So, yeah, it's a good time to get out there and observe deer kind of in their natural movements.
Yeah. Now, it is good to mention the archery season's still open during early muzzleloader, correct?
Correct.
Now, are you required to wear orange during that time? Do you know? Okay.
You are. Yep. And so the same blaze orange rules would apply for any firearm season, whether gun or muzzleloader.
Bow hunters, do they?
Bow hunters don't.
They don't.
No.
Okay.
If you're hunting with archery equipment, you never have to wear blaze orange.
Okay. I will say, just for me personally, I bow hunted during early muzzleloader last year, and I wore orange anyway.
Yeah.
So I was on public, and you never know who's out there.
And that's smart. And to be honest with you, in terms of a deer biology standpoint, you're really not making yourself any more visible to deer for the most part. Deer don't see blaze orange like we do. And so that's kind of a misconception there. But wearing orange, I don't think it makes much of a difference other than being more safe.
We got a few minutes left here on the show this week. We're talking with Jace Elliott from the Iowa DNR. The season will be coming up fast, Jace. I know a lot of people are already excited about it. I see on social media a lot of velvet pictures out there on trail cam and people that go out and scout and have those long lens cameras taking photos of them and stuff. And it's definitely getting exciting. How are you getting prepped? Are you out shooting your bow at all? Are you scouting areas?
Yeah, I'm out shooting my bow. Started maybe a month ago, hitting it at least a few times a week. I just enjoy it a lot. Me and my fiance shoot our bows together. We do 3D shoots. Just did one last week with the Iowa Bow Hunters Association up in Eldora, I think, and then we're looking at maybe hitting a couple more before the season starts. In terms of scouting, I like to get out there a little closer to deer season myself, just because I'm hunting the same places I have in past years. Now, if I was hunting a totally new area, I might want to get a few scouting sessions in before the season, but at this point, I'm pretty comfortable with the locations, and it can be a little bit of a jungle this time of year. Yeah,
last week's episode, if you missed it, I was with Caleb Drake, and we scouted a piece of public, and man, you hit it right there. It was like a jungle. It was overgrown in some parts, and you start questioning your life choices a little bit when you're out there.
You bet.
And I had never been really legit summer scouting in a timber before.
Yeah.
So that was a new experience. Glad I did it, but I can see why people prefer to do it after the season ends in January.
Yeah,
you get
true.
to February and March.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah.
You bet. What I let inform my hunting decisions is really current recent sign. So what I do a lot of times, like if I'm hunting early muzzleloader, I'll go in a day or two before the season and just try to look for new recent sign and then hunt that as quickly as I can. And I've had success with that.
Yeah. How did your season go last year? Did you tag a deer at all?
Yeah, I did a couple. I think my fiance and I put 5 deer in the freezer between
Nice.
the two of us. She got a couple bucks. They were her first Iowa bucks. Shot her first buck with a bow at 7 yards on some public land not far from here, which was really cool. And I got myself a buck not too far from there either. And I think I really only went out one sit during the rut before I was able to find a nice 130-inch buck, which I was plenty happy with. I like to kind of fill my tags and get bird hunting because I've got a bird dog that certainly needs it. So we did good from a meat perspective and put some antlers on the wall. So had a great season.
I think last year was my all-time favorite season in my life.
Nice.
Just from this, I got my first public land buck, and it was also like a tale of two firsts. It was the first year I ever took from the ground with a bow.
Oh, that's cool.
So that was really cool.
Yeah.
But also like that whole first week of November, I had off from work, and just it was one of the first times I ever said like I'm gonna take like a rutcation, right? And hunt that week. I saw more deer that week than any other season combined in my life, and it was kind of mixed from what I was reading online. People were saying like they weren't seeing as many deer last year, and maybe they thought the numbers were down, and I was a complete opposite. I saw more deer that week than I ever have before.
That's great. That's great. I think a lot of the reports of low deer numbers was due to the EHD outbreak we had in 2024, and it was very severe in some places. But the nature of hemorrhagic disease is that it doesn't sweep across the landscape equally. So you were likely hunting in a place that was unaffected, which is fortunate. But there certainly was properties that were hit pretty hard.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Jace, thanks a lot for coming on the show. It's good to catch up with you in person. How can the listeners stay connected with the work from like your office at the DNR?
You bet. So listeners can go to the deer hunting website, and I try to keep a lot of documents current, in-depth looks at the last year's harvest for the deer season, population trends. They can find our deer hunting report there. There will soon be a new statewide deer management plan, something we haven't done in the past, but it provides a lot of comprehensive overviews of the topics we talked about. And also there's a new chronic wasting disease response plan on that website too. So we're always making new reports, new information available, and the deer hunting website from the DNR is the place to find it.
Perfect. Well, check out their website, find all their information there, and hopefully the next time you and I talk, maybe we'll have some hunting stories from this coming fall. Maybe I'll get one like one of these bucks behind this year.
Let's hope we both do. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Well, that's Jace Elliott from the Iowa DNR. Thanks a lot for joining us here on Outdoor Adventures. I'm Brent Barnett with Brownfield.